All right. Well, I'm excited to welcome in Kristin Della Rovere, former Harvard hockey player and now professional women's hockey player in Ottawa. Kristin, we met this summer and we were talking about sort of the journey for you to get to this moment where you can call yourself a women's professional hockey player. So just tell everyone listening right now, how are things going as you guys are in training camp up in Ottawa?
Yeah, I think things are pretty amazing. It's pretty surreal. First and foremost, our staff are absolutely incredible, and our venue that we play at, our arena, is also like outstanding. And it's something that we're not really used to as female hockey players. And so, kind of everything we're getting right now is just a surreal experience, and we're all beyond grateful. On the training camp side of things, it's been good. We just finished all of our fitness testing and off ice fitness testing, and now we're moving on to the on ice piece. And yesterday was our first practice. It was mainly games. And so now we get into all the fun stuff and all the hockey stuff, which is what we're really here for. So I think everyone's really excited, but also a little bit sore.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is definitely something that I think for a lot of American audiences might not even be familiar with the fact that this is a new league. There's going to be 6 teams, and in fact, 2 from the United States. If I think if that's correct, and I was pretty interested to see that the part of the ownership group sponsoring the league. There's a neat tie to Major League Baseball. Some of the Los Angeles Dodgers ownership group have bought into the league. So from where we are in terms of the progression of women's professional hockey, if you could talk a little bit about just being at your age and at this place in time in women's, hockey. What does it mean to you to be a part of a league that is starting to generate some real buzz and is, like you mentioned, giving female hockey players an opportunity to play on the big stage? What's that like as someone who's played hockey her whole life?
It's incredible. I think this is probably, if I'm not mistaken, like at least the fourth or fifth league since I've been in high school that's tried to support women's hockey. Unfortunately, the other leagues either they folded, they boycotted, they didn't have the funding. And so now to have, a billionaire and have someone who's successful in baseball kind of be our backbone and support us, as well as, you know, having like all these amazing people and all these sponsors coming in and having a CBA set up already to protect our rights as players is pretty incredible. I think it's been a long road, especially just signing in a different league that folded in 4 months ago and now having a new league set up right now that we're all trying to figure out simultaneously and, get ready to go for January. But it's really cool. I think one thing that another player had said who's up in Montreal, like there's a lot of buzz about what our jerseys are going to look like, what the logos are, what arenas we're playing at, and things that aren't necessarily solidified right now. And, she's like, but we're here, we get to play. And I think that's the most important part for us is this first year is going to be a little different. We might not have those logos solidified. We might not have, everything perfect this year, but it's an opportunity for us to play and an opportunity for us to, showcase our skill and everything. And then, as I said, we have this amazing backbone. So in the future of this league, we have the opportunity to have those logos ready for next year, have everything perfect a year from now, because 4 months is not a lot of time to kind of get a league going. But yeah, so we're at 6 teams right now, 3 Canadian, 3 American. And so hopefully in the future, there'll be a little bit of an expansion, but it's been like surreal. There's no words to describe the feeling of like getting drafted and you're not sure if you will, and signing your first contract and just being a part of this like movement that it's all new to us, but we all want to be someone that the next generation can see, someone that little girls can look up to and be like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like I can be a professional hockey player, because when I was little, there was only men like professional leagues, the NHL, there was no women. And so we have this opportunity, we're in this position to be kind of those trailblazers and to, showcase something and hopefully solidify something so we can inspire younger girls and the next generation and kind of show people that, this can be done and you can be a professional athlete as a woman.
we're definitely going to talk to you a little bit about that route, but I want to go back to something you mentioned about the excitement and the sort of enthusiasm that's been building for you. In American sports, a lot of fans rally on draft days for their respective teams, and there's big spectacles and television broadcasts. So I would love to know for you, what was your draft day experience like?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't actually attend the draft. It was in Toronto, and they had a full, draft day experience. So I think it was at CBC or something in Toronto, and they
Cool.
had the red carpet out. They had, I believe it was purple because, our PWHL league is purple. That's our part of our logo. And so they had the girls sit up there. They had a bunch of younger girls there to, if they wanted autographs, want to support the girls. They had good media. There was like broadcasts of it and everything, which was really cool. And so unfortunately I didn't get to go, but I watched the stream of it, and I was drafted in, a little bit of a later round. So it would have been a long day being there. But from hearing it from other people, it was incredible. It's something that even in previous women's hockey leagues, there was no draft. And so kind of seeing this as a first one and seeing the coverage it got and the support it got was like surreal. And I didn't know how cool it would be to kind of hear your name being called. Even though for me it was like just over stream, then I thought like I don't know, I got so emotional and I was like so excited, and I didn't think it would feel that special. But in that moment, it's just like, I don't know, it was a different feeling.
Now, you were a big time college hockey player. I mean, Harvard plays in one of the most competitive conferences in America. You were a 4-year starter. You were all ECAC your junior year. You whooped up on my Union College hockey team quite a bit for all those years when I was at Union. We know we love our hockey teams at Union, but I did have to see you guys took care of business quite easily against Union. So, but going through 4 years of playing big time college hockey, and now you mentioned that you've been through, sort of the preliminary training stages and you're gearing up for your season. What's something that stood out to you about the difference from going from 4 years top-notch college hockey to now you're playing professional? What's been a big difference that stood out to you in these early stages?
I think one of the biggest things is just the age range. When you're in college, players are usually at max like 3-4 years older than you. There's girls in this league who are several girls who are like over 30, and so me being 22, these are girls who I looked up to and have watched play hockey in the national team for years. And so now getting to be teammates with them or knowing I'm going to play against them is really cool. But also, it can be a little threatening knowing that you get to play against some of your idols and everything. But I think, it's a different level of professional, like the way you carry yourself and everything. And there's a lot of, you have, this league has the best girls in the world, 150 best players in the world. And I think college athletics, you have 1 or 2 of the best girls from college now on each team. And so the skill and the speed of everyone is just top notch. But it's cool getting to hear stories from your teammates, getting to learn stuff from them, and just getting to be considered in the same bubble and kind of being one of those top players in the world is really cool. But yeah, definitely it's different when you have players on your team who are moms and have kids and
right
doing what they're doing, and they're the ones who kind of made this league possible for us. So just kind of getting the opportunity to learn from them as well and kind of hear more about their story and how they got this league going has been really exciting.
You mentioned people's stories and their journeys getting to, professional hockey. A phrase that we often address in our history class and the sports class that I'm teaching is how the past shapes the future. So if you were to look back on your past, your upbringing, playing hockey as a kid, through the sort of high school age and then into Harvard before now getting to play professionally, looking back on that experience, what would you say is one definitive person? I would love to focus on someone along your journey that you can draw back to and say that person definitely helped shape where I am now as a professional hockey player?
I think it's so hard to say just one. So I might have to name just a few
Yeah, we'll
here.
let that slide. I like to box my students in. That's a teaching thing, to give them no out. You know, you gotta.
I know.
We'll be gracious here and let you point out a few people if that's all right.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just my parents. Um, just looking back at things now and seeing like how they'd spend their weekends with me in a tournament somewhere, play games. Throughout high school, I played hockey for a team that was over an hour away from my house. So my mom would drive me there 5 days a week minimum. You know, my high school was 45 minutes away from where I lived
Wow.
because I also went to a sports school because I knew that that's kind of what I needed to do to get to the level I wanted to be at. And so kind of the sacrifices they did for me and the support they gave me and everything was, I couldn't have done it without them. Like, you know, them just being able to push me in school and hockey and just, you know, give me the opportunity to do what I want to do is a really big thing. And then I definitely have a few coaches from high school that also pushed me. And one of my high school coach, Kim McCullough, was like, she played college hockey. She was part of the national program a bit. And she like, she always challenged me to, you know, be comfortable being uncomfortable and knew that, okay, in high school I was successful, but doing what I was doing in high school wouldn't be good enough to be successful in college. So she kind of set me up early and kind of taught me things that, you know, weren't necessarily helpful in the moment, but she knew would be helpful 3-4 years down the road. And even if I was doing well, if I wasn't doing my best and, you know, putting in 100% of effort and doing the little things right, because you can get away with that stuff in high school, you can't necessarily get away with that stuff in college. She was sure to tell me about that and made sure I did everything right. And then the last person is actually my roommate, Zoe Boyd, who's also on my team. It's just a full circle moment. Like, she's the reason I started playing hockey because we were best friends when we were 3 years old. And she started playing hockey. And so I was like, oh, I want to play hockey too if you're playing hockey. And kind of we grew up together playing boys hockey and then hadn't played together since we were maybe 13, 14, and then ended up getting drafted to the same team and now get to do this
Wow.
journey together again. So
Yeah, that's
I'll
wild.
throw that in there because she's kind of the reason I got more involved into
Yeah.
hockey. Like, now that we get to be teammates and roommates and everything is awesome.
Yeah, there was an article recently that talked about your journey with her and the uniqueness of the friendship and how, you know, what are the odds that you start out and make it all the way through that progression of youth hockey through high school, Division I. And that was actually one of the articles the guys in class read, just to get a little background about where you've come from. And it coincidentally ties into some of the themes. One of the things that you brought up is striking to me because we've been recently in class talking a great deal about youth sports and some of the questions here that American researchers and families and even governments are looking into the rapid decline in youth sports participation in America across the board. Kristin, the numbers are way down in American youth sports, but yet interestingly, the money invested and the revenue in what are these sort of club and travel teams is going way up. So in class, we talked a great deal about what are some of the factors. And growing up in Canada, your track towards professional hockey, I would love to talk to you a bit about that experience because it's unique to the way that sort of the American sport path is open to some of our athletes. Even something like you mentioned, you went to a sports school for high school. So take us back to, you know, your earliest when you and Zoe were learning and playing hockey at a young age. Did you play any other sports?
Yeah, I played, you know, hockey was my main sport. I think I kind of played a little bit of everything. I love soccer too. Played box lacrosse, which I'm not sure it's a big sport.
No, it's big time. Yeah, in fact, our school, we've got a really solid lacrosse program. A couple guys in the class are playing D1 next year. So yeah, lacrosse is one of those sports that's exploded here.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I did lacrosse. And again, a lot of these sports, because of where we were from, we played with guys. So I played
Okay.
lacrosse with the guys. I played hockey with the guys growing up. I played soccer. And then just in school, I did everything like track, soccer, basketball, hockey, just did everything. But once I got a little older, I chose to just focus on hockey and continue with hockey just because I loved it the most.
We were talking about that recently, and specialization is one of those factors that's led to a decline in many American youth sports as students, as kids and young student athletes. There's different reasons for why kids are beginning to specialize, but it's interesting that you with your background playing so many different sports, but then once you made that decision to go all in on hockey, how did that impact your decision to attend a sports high school? And if you could talk a bit more about that, because there are in America right now that there is a movement trending towards more of these sort of sport academies, especially with basketball. And with basketball, one thing that's happening is schools are enticing students to leave their sort of brick and mortar town or private schools and go to these basketball academies. But it hasn't grown in terms of other sports as much of with a singular focus. So talk to us a little bit about that high school experience of being at a sports school and how that translated into your both academic and athletic development.
I think when I was kind of in about seventh grade, I kind of wanted a different change for my school. I wasn't happy with where I was at, and I found the sports school that had hockey and lacrosse. And again, it was men's hockey, men's lacrosse, and women's lacrosse. There was no women's hockey. And I was going to attend there in grade 8 and skip 8th grade. But
Okay.
instead, I found a different hockey school that kind of had women's hockey. So I did 1 year there for 8th grade. And I kind of liked the experience of having more sport worked in with your school. And then I was debating between going to a normal high school and kind of going to a sports school just because I knew there wasn't many girls at this school. It was hockey again with the guys, and it'd be a big commitment for me, like just the distance and everything. And when I was kind of debating what to do, like I knew what goals I had in the future, and I knew kind of what that high school near my house was like and how not many kids going to that high school kind of made it to college and everything just 'cause it's a very small school. And so I kind of talked to my mom maybe like 2 weeks before school started and was like, I want to go to this hockey school. I want to get out and do something different. I need to a little more. I need to do something more than everyone else is doing because of the goals I set for myself. I knew just doing the average wouldn't be enough. And it worked out to be amazing. I mean, the school wasn't pretty. It wasn't one of those pretty sports school. Now it has grown to be beautiful and they have a beautiful campus and everything. But at the time you were like in a hockey arena and we were in like portables in the back of the rink. And so it wasn't a luxurious school or anything, but it gave me the flexibility to play hockey, to work out. And they're very lenient with travel and stuff, and I'd miss school to catch up on assignments, and really helped prepare me to go to an American college because it's not something we really do at normal high schools in Canada. And so it was cool. It was not as luxurious as it sounds, but it was nice. I think the only downside was that again there were maybe 20 girls in the whole school, so a lot of male athletes, not a lot of female, but I think now they've got quite a few more female athletes. So I hope to continue to see them grow in that aspect and get more female hockey players and lacrosse players attending there.
Well, it's interesting. You've brought it up a couple times that a lot of your youth experience entailed playing against boys. And certainly it's undeniable that whether in the States here or in Canada, the attention on women's sports has grown exponentially over the last few years. And so as my students and I are exploring themes within the growth and the evolution of women's sports, I'm wondering from your point of view, what you notice playing here in America during college versus now going back home to Canada. what are the differences in perspective towards women's sports in the two countries?
I think it really depends. I think when I try to look at it more, I mean, I'm not that old. I'm only 22, but I think even from when I was a kid to now, things have changed a lot. And I think America has kind of more resources and more opportunities to put kids in sports, but I continue to see a growth in the accessibility for women's sports as in childhood and just more interest in women in sports. I think Canada and the States are pretty similar, but I think just with the age and, now from when I was a kid to now, things seem to be more accessible and there's more options for women. And if you want to be in, gender specific sports, or if you want to be in co-ed, there's more of an option. But I think Canada, at least from Toronto, where I was from, and to Boston, the East Coast, were pretty similar. I think Americans were more specialized and more intense in their like upbringing, I should say.
Interesting. It's a neat perspective to have. Certainly, there's been some high profile talks, and obviously with the women's national team, the soccer national team gained a lot of momentum in terms of equal pay. And there's just been, much more focus on conversations about sport equity. Here in the States, right, we've got Title IX, which is a federal law that was a game changer for accessibility for women at the college level, as well as educational opportunities too. So now with this introduction of a women's hockey league in Canada and the States, be curious to see and follow. Certainly, the women's professional soccer league in the United States has gained a solid footing. The WNBA has been around for a while. So it will be interesting to see with this new upstart league, right, how long, the financial support and the fan support, we'll be rooting for you guys and keeping an eye on things to ensure that hopefully that gains some kind of attraction. Because no matter what the league is, it doesn't matter seemingly the sport. I mean, they've even tried down here to create offshoots of professional football. And there's so many factors that often block a league from growing in its infancy. And it really often doesn't have much to do with gender or whatnot. But hopefully for this new hockey league, it does open some people's eyes to the women's game, especially with 2026, looming not that far down the corner. So, one of the last, sort of segments I'd love to talk to you about is, you mentioned your goals. So you checked off Division I hockey, you checked off professional hockey player. Now what's next on those goals? Is the Olympics the next piece for you?
Yeah, I think looking forward in 2026 would be my next goal, is to make that Olympics and be able to compete for ice hockey. Have been at a crossroads of whether I would represent Canada or Italy. Being a citizen of both countries and getting the opportunity for both. I've been with Hockey Canada for almost 10 years now, and I would be leaving the program to join Italy. So I have a big decision, and I would have to go play there for a season before I could compete for Italy. But yeah, it's a decision I need to make. I think hopefully after this year, I'll have more insight on what I decide to do. But I think especially for women's hockey, like because this professional league is new, the Olympics is kind of a big goal for every kid. Because we never had a league to look forward to playing in. So you play in college and your goal would be to make the Olympics.
Right.
And Canada, their average age on the Olympics from 2022, I think, was 29. So they go with older girls. And again, because I have other goals that I want to complete outside of hockey and kind of like med school and, getting into the medical field, I don't know, I've been debating going and competing for Italy. And I think that would be very special, just representing my family in a different way and representing my background and my upbringing. So it's a decision I will have to make probably a year for sure, but
it's so cool.
Definitely, like it would be a dream come true. Either way, it would be an honor, and it it's definitely kind of up there on my list right now.
No, that's really cool. And I want to now, Kristin, transition into the final. We got a few minutes left here, and a couple of the students had some questions, so I want to give a little recognition to some of them. Camden Paulson wants to know: are there any differences playing when you play hockey in different countries, whether it's Canada, US? You mentioned, you might pursue playing in Italy. Are there any differences between playing in different countries?
Yeah, I think there are definitely differences. I know playing against different teams, Japan was not as systematic, I think, but they were really fast and really they worked very hard. I think playing in the States, people were more physical than they were in Canada.
Okay.
I think Canada and the States are pretty similar in what they do, but now like a lot of the national team programs have kind of a little bit different styles. And again, it comes with just the depth that they get because Canada and US are a lot more deep than the other countries. But I think each country kind of has a little bit, of its own thing. And I know in Europe, they play on bigger ice rinks and they get a lot more kind of sponsorships and stuff. And so they have girls who kind of come play professional right out of high school too. So they're very different, but in the end, it's the same game you play and the same objective. So it is kind of cool to see each country have a little bit of its own thing in within hockey.
Yeah, a little bit of a flair, different style to it, different style of play. Yeah, that is cool, and it would be neat. I think again to go back to the Olympics real quick before we get to our final question from Lucas P. But going back, the Olympics are going to be in Milan in 2026, so Italy getting a chance to host the games, compete there, that might give you a little more incentive to think about. Although you would have to break, the U.S. Canada monopoly. I think Canada's won 5 golds, U.S. has won 2. I remember when women's hockey first came in Nagano in 1998. That was a pretty big deal to see women's hockey and U.S. Obviously got to root for the U.S. when it comes to the Olympics, but we're definitely usually the underdogs, and I think Italy would be a bit of an underdog. But hey, if you get to play in the Olympics, that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So last question, Kristin, because Micah Blackburn was going to ask about your background in other sports. We kind of covered that, but I think for my seniors who are going to go off next year, whether they play college sports or whether they're students, certainly you mentioned med school, and that's something you're pursuing. You were a psychology major. So Lucas's question is, how did you balance the academic rigor at Harvard while being a Division I, athlete?
It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. So I think it just comes into knowing what you want to do. And for me, that was prioritizing school and hockey. And maybe that means not hanging out with friends as much as you might want to, or going out as much as you might want to, but kind of just having good time management and knowing, I have practice and then tonight I have to stay in and study for a few hours. I'm not doing much else, and just kind of planning out your weeks, knowing what assignments are due, trying to stay on top of things, and then just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. So for me at Harvard, all my teammates were on the same page. So we might not go out for dinner and together as a way to hang out, but a group of 5 of us will be studying together or doing homework together. And so it's easier when people around you are doing the same thing. But you just kind of have to know what you want. And I think it's most important is just time management, being able to kind of set yourself up on a schedule to complete the things that need to be done, even when, you don't necessarily want to do them.
I hope these guys are listening, because it's good to, sometimes with your students, right? They hear your voice, the teacher's voice, the coach's voice, whatever, parents, but someone who's lived it, gone through it. And now, you can look back and say those skills, that dedication that was required of you to be successful and a 4-year player, it literally has paid off now that you're a professional hockey player. And
and I think it starts in high school. I think the reason why I could do it so well in college was because I had to do it in high school. So it makes the transition easy. it's not as difficult if you've been doing it already. Then you go off to college. If you're starting first thing in college where it'll already be difficult, it kind of makes it a little harder. So definitely is important to start it earlier in high school and get accustomed to it before heading off to college.
Good. Well, I hope these guys are listening, and this has been pretty cool. First time doing this, and this is going to be something that for class and for my own, selfish curiosity, I really enjoy talking to you. It was great meeting you this summer, and I think now you'll probably have about 20 or so more followers maybe and fans out here in Phoenix rooting for the Ottawa team, and we'll be looking forward to once you guys get your team name, your logo, your uniforms. I'm pretty pumped. These guys don't know it yet, but one of their final projects is going to be they have to come up with a sports franchise and design uniforms and logos. And we're going to put some thought into that as they wrap up this semester. So, Kristin, it really was a pleasure. I know I look forward to seeing you this upcoming year. Hopefully we'll be able to link up again in person. And if not, I'll definitely have to share out with the class once the season gets up and running, some of the schedule and all that. So these guys can watch some high quality women's hockey from online and whatnot. So thank you, Kristin, for being on here. We'll be in touch, and I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me and for, supporting women's sports and women's hockey. It means a lot to all of us, and, good luck to you and your guys for the school year. It's awesome. I look forward to hearing more about them and how everything ended up this year.
Yeah, I will. And I'll have to share with you. We've got a pretty successful hockey team out here. So they do play hockey in Phoenix at the high school level pretty competitively. And, it's been cool to, being a new teacher, new coach at the school. There's such a great sports tradition here, but, I think that the guys will really appreciate getting your perspective on what it takes to get to that level. And, who knows? Hopefully we'll have someone to root for as well in 2026. So Kristin, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Of course. Yeah. And any other questions or anything, you have my number. Just send them. I'm always here.
Okay. Thanks, Kristin. See you.
All right. Bye.